What happens when we die? Is there an afterlife? Do we go to heaven? Or even worse, hell? Can we communicate with the dead? And if we can, should we? Let's find out.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 22 of Pedro Paranormal. I'm here as always with my co-host Carlos, and I'm your host Tony. And today's episode we are going to be discussing witchcraft. Yeah, we're going to be talking about witchcraft, about witches, a little bit of the history, and also talk about some films, So...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so before we start, I just want to do a quick shout out again to, what is it called? Halloween Screams here in San Pedro. They provided us with this witch that's right above Carlos's head. Yeah, so I want to say thank you to Darlene again for, for this prop for this episode.
Yes.
So, you know what? Why don't we just dig into it now? Like, why don't we get into the whole thing of witchcraft? So, you said you did a lot of, I guess you researched a lot of like the Salem stuff, right? Or the stuff that happened in Europe, or am I wrong?
Yes, mostly it's what happened in Europe. The first half would be the witch trials of Europe, and how that coincides with Salem a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the last half would just be talking about modern day Wicca, how it became popular. And some of the objects they used for that modern day religion.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm sorry. Before we keep going with this episode, you know what? I wanted to mention something real quick that I know it's a big thing right now for a lot of people. I don't know if you saw this, Carlos, on the news, but they were talking about how they believe that the world's gonna end on Sunday. Did you see that?
I heard something about that. What's the detail on that?
Yeah, supposedly it's the whole the Mayan calendar with they made a movie about this in 20 with John Cusack, and I think we talked about this movie and I think on the episode of the End of the World.
End of the World.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the world was supposedly going to end on December 20 something of 2012. And according to what I saw on the news and online, there's a guy that did the math, I guess because there used to be a different kind of a calendar back in the day, right? Like something, I forgot what it was called, and now it changed to the Gregorian calendar, and it ended up taking 11 days out of every year. And what this person did, they added all these days that were lost through the years, through hundreds of years. And so he did all the math and everything, and it ended up coming up that we are technically living in, if we were like going according to the original calendar, we're in December 2012 right now, and Sunday is supposed to be the day, when the world really ends. So I don't know. What do you think, Carlos? And you know what? A lot of people are buying this right now because of everything that's been going on, with the coronavirus, the riots, the fires, the earthquakes. It's just a lot of stuff is happening right now. So yeah. So.
If anybody wants to give anything away, they can they can email us.
Yeah. Hey, so you never know that this might be our last episode. Yeah.
And this witchcraft, what's going on with that?
I know.
But in the End of the World episode, didn't we discuss that the Mayan calendar just restarts and just reboots itself?
Well, the thing is, that was the excuse to why the world didn't end. It was because it just means that it's a new start, like it's an end to an era and a beginning to another. So
okay.
I don't know. Who knows, Carlos? I don't know if we're gonna reach episode 23. But yeah, so I just wanted to get that out there because I've been watching it all over YouTube and like I said, it was on the news. I don't know if he was some kind of scientist. I don't know what kind of scientist
Right.
tweeted this information, and then later that day they removed it. So who knows? Maybe they're building, like in the movie, they're building those things, those Noah's Arks, and going to go into those
China.
caves and stuff. Yeah.
Where do I get a ticket?
Yeah, I know. So hopefully this is not the last episode of Pedro Paranormal. The end. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there. So, anyways, getting back to witchcraft. You know what? I really didn't do that much. I'm not really prepared for this episode. I just I watched a couple of movies, and I did watch a couple of documentaries. But the thing is, I don't know. I just couldn't get into. There's so much information. And the thing is, I watched a few different, documentaries, and they all kind of mixed the information around. They told it differently, or some people said, "Oh no, it's this," and then some people said, "No, it's this." So my brain was just like, okay, so I don't know what's the real history and what's not. But Carlos,
you have to go.
But Carlos did a ton of research, so
Oh my God.
yeah, so he's prepared. Yeah, but I mean, Carlos.
The Tony backpack.
I mean, what do you did you ever meet or hear stories like of a real witch, like growing up, or
Of a real witch?
maybe a family member that practiced magic or anything like that?
No family member that practiced magic. I might have heard some stories, but nothing rings to mind right now. Do you have anything to share with us?
Well, you know what? I had mentioned in a previous episode, I think it was a psychic episode, how my grandmother, she actually, I guess, was kind of into the whole occult thing. And she, according to the stories that I've heard, I mean, I have no proof of this, or, you know how sometimes when you tell a story over and over, it changes over time. So I don't know if this is exact, something exact that happened, but there was stories of my grandmother, like, having people go over to help them put like either do curses or cleanse, what they call the limpias cleansings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if to believe it, because now there's so much stuff, especially with technology now, where you could record stuff and play it in slow motion and try to catch that, like the magician, try to catch that sleight of hand. So
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
who knows?
right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times back in the day, especially back then, people, they would find ways to make a little money here and there. So at least that's what I think. I don't know.
We're going to be talking a lot about that today, about the money, the influence of power and money, and all kinds of cool little things with this these accusations. Witchcraft. I think we should start first, before this whole thing in Europe and in Salem started. Let's go back to around 1431, the mid to early 1400s. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about Joan of Arc. Put a little picture here of Joan of Arc here.
Hey, I watched that movie. That's Lily Sobieski.
Yeah, Lily Sobieski. Yeah, and Joan of Arc was actually, before she became famous, a famous general for the French king. She was actually a seamstress. And what was calling to her were actually the saints joining the French and help the king. There was a northern occupation from the English. And the French tried many times but couldn't prevail. So Joan of Arc battled for that area. She went out there with her banner and motivated all the troops to take back what was France's property before. And people just loved and adored her. Then all of a sudden, without the king's blessing, I guess she tried to go on some solo missions and she failed badly. She was captured. So they had her in this prison and they kind of gave her a warning. If you don't stop doing what you're doing, we're going to put you on the stake. So she was like, okay, I'll sign this royal decree and I'll say I won't dress as a man any longer. And she's taken back to her cell, right? So this is how messed up it is. The guards there were like, well, we're gonna take your clothes away. You're gonna be there standing naked, or you're gonna wear these men's clothes. I'm a very religious person. I can't stand here being nude, so I'm gonna have to put the men's clothes on. So she put the men's clothes on. Next thing you know, someone came up and they saw her with that. After she signed the decree, said, "No, we gave you the warning." They put her on trial. They put her on the stake, and she's being burnt alive.
Yeah. Well, is there a record of this? All these conversations of like what happened exactly with, the guards telling her to dress like a man and all that stuff, or is that just like kind of a legend now?
That's a good question. When I did the research, it was pretty much out of a video, so I'm not sure. I don't have access to the resources. If I did, I could probably read the book or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But if I did have the sources, I can look them up. Joan of Arc in the mid 1400s.
Yeah, and is this when all that all the thing against witches started, like with Joan of Arc, or was this something that had happened before?
This is a precursor. There were a lot of witch hunts even before the big witch hunts of Europe. Back then, in certain areas, witches and the religion of God. I don't know if it was the Puritans or the Vatican. They were kind of not very close, but they kind of tolerated each other. But it wasn't until these books were written that people started accusing people of being witches.
Oh, okay.
And one of those that I want to talk to you about is this inquisitor named Heinrich Kramer. He's a master manipulator, by the way. And he wrote the book, the Malleus Maleficarum. In other words, it's called the Witch's Hammer. Okay. And this book called The Witch's Hammer, it was kind of like it was a book that had 3 parts in it. The first part explained the existence of witches. The second part was a guide for clergy on the witches. And the third part of the manual was the accusation, the prosecution, and the execution of witches.
Oh, okay. Hey, Carlos.
Yeah. And yes.
Did you forget you have Joan of Arc on the screen? Because I feel like I'm interviewing Joan of Arc. There you are. There you are.
Yeah, you know, I have more pictures.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I can't produce and talk at the same time. I'm not multi-talented.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I did see
I have some other pictures. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Joan of Arc.
And then this is where they buried her in the.
Where they burned her?
Where they burned her, sorry, buried her. There you go. Yeah. She's wearing has a cross open.
Yeah. Well, you know, I did look into the whole thing of that guy that wrote that book on, you know, the one that supposedly it was almost like a How to Find a Witch for Dummies book, kind of, right?
Oh yeah.
And you know what? It's crazy, like, because I know we talked about this before we started filming this episode, and
right.
I mean, it is crazy how this guy just put all this information, almost like just being against kind of women, against women thing, you know, because it started a whole, I think this is what started everything, right? The whole, saying women were evil, women were dirty, all these things.
Right.
So.
That's the hardcore masochist, yeah.
Yeah, but. Yeah, so that's crazy. But, so I know that the book, you had said that was he a religious man, the guy that wrote this?
Yes, I believe he might have come from the church, but he was very religious. And he was also, before he wrote the book, he had a few times he tried to convict a couple of people, but he failed miserably because he had no way of accusing them.
Oh, okay.
But he was, he would, it was kind of like his trial run.
Yeah.
But with the book, he was able to write everything down, what a witch is, how to accuse them, convict them, and torture them. And the book, when it was about to be released, it really didn't have much influence until they put in the papal bull, which is this royal decree from the church on the book that pretty much gave the book and the author the blessing and saying that this book is legitimate and it is the right thing, and you go out there and do your witch hunts. But I believe there was a forgery there involved, and he actually got that decree from another book.
Carlos.
Hello.
Oh, you're kind of freezing up there.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's almost like today, now I know why Facebook is called Facebook, because I guess back then books were like Facebook. That's how you spread false information and hype everybody up. But don't believe everything you see on Facebook.
So no. Not even on the show.
Yeah, especially on this show.
So the witch's hammer became very popular. There were a lot of accusations, and this was probably around the French area, around the southern part of Europe, and so forth. And it was, it's something that happened that was pretty bad. People started being accused. We're talking about one of the people that were actually accused most than anybody were the women back then. Anywhere from 70 to 80% of women were the ones that were accused. Some were young, some were middle aged, but the majority of these that were accused were elderly women back then.
Yeah.
And the reason why they went after these elderly women is because we talked about this earlier, that they were widowed. They didn't have a social support network. Most of them were wise, and they knew how to make herbs, or they knew how to gather herbs and anything to heal.
Yeah.
And they saw that as witchcraft too.
It's almost like today, right? When sometimes I remember like growing up, and when I would get sick, or my sisters, my brothers, and you would always, like, I remember my mom would call my aunt, which would be which is her older sister, right? To see, hey, what's good for this, what's good for here, for earaches, what's good for sore throat, and she'd be, oh yeah, just get this little plant, and or get garlic and put it in a little paper towel and put it in his ear. So I mean, I think it's just something that comes with time. When as you get older, you start gathering all this knowledge. So they kind of use that against them, right? Their knowledge.
Right, exactly. Anything that's a remedy.
Yeah.
That's natural from the earth, like let's say ginger for your stomach, to cure your stomach aches.
Yeah.
They'd be, oh, that's the devil's work. And that was in the what was that? Let's see.
15th, 16th century.
That book. Yeah, that book was written in 1485, 1486, around that time. And so that was during around the French, German area, and all these other areas down below in Europe that was happening. But up in I guess England, up there, King James the First. This was in 1597 where he wrote his book too, which is witches and demonology, and he had also something up there that he wanted to work on too. A lot of bad things were happening to him at the time. I guess one of his wives or so couldn't make the vessel, or there was some sort of problem where, because he was in Scotland and his wife was coming over from England, and there was an issue with the ships where she couldn't make it, and so he had to race back over to the motherland and see what's going on. And he heard through the grapevine, or these false accusations, that they were trying to take him and his wife out, these saboteurs, in other words, they were witches. So he had this whole idea that he must go after these witches too.
Oh, okay.
And so he wrote the book.
King James, is he the one that wrote the book in the Bible? The King.
The King James version.
King James version.
This is a Lutheran.
Yeah.
He was King James the Sixth, or I forget what it is, fourth, and then, or he was Prince, or he was James the Sixth, and then once he became King of England, he became King James the First.
Oh, okay.
He renamed himself.
All right.
So there were a lot of accusations. The same thing up in England. A lot of people, especially women, were accused. These midwives, right? These live-in nurses were accused a lot. these nurses, the reason why they were accused is because they had to deal with a high infant mortality rate. As soon as the mother gave birth to a child, either the mother would pass away, and more than often the child would pass away, and then she was accused of being a witch. Put into prison. There was a trial, and they would in Europe, as opposed to Salem, in Europe they would actually burn them at the stake, and most of the times they were hanging them, but that's what they would do.
Yeah, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, I know they have there was it's gonna sound funny, but there was a series on, I believe it was Stars, called Salem. Did you watch that? Did you hear about it?
There's a series. I don't know how many episodes there were, but I said, "Oh, there's a series." That was a movie.
Yeah.
But I did watch the first episode.
Oh man, that show was really good, like really good. But I mean, yeah. You know what? I think a lot of like movies and shows are just I don't know, mostly fiction, I guess, because some of the research I looked into and then compared it to the films I watched that supposedly were based on those whatever happened back then, and they're just like 99% like just a bunch of fantasy, and maybe a little bit just the place was called Salem. That's the real part. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy that I think this was used, like we had spoken before. I think this was used mostly just for either to gain something out of it, either power, money. Sometimes I believe it's even because of I don't. It's funny because I just watched a movie with my kids a few days ago called The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Remember that one? With Demi Moore and all that. But in that film, there's a guy that, like, I guess he works for the church, and the thing is I guess he falls in love with the character of the Demi Moore's character, the gypsy, the dancer. And the thing is he starts like being kind of like, I shouldn't fall in love, this is wrong, that this is the devil's work and she's a witch. And so the thing is, he got so obsessed with the character, Demi Moore's character, and so he decides that, what, since I can't be with her because of I belong to the church and all this stuff, and she's in his eyes those were bad people, the gypsies, because of witchcraft and all that, because they believe they did witchcraft. So he's like, well, if I can't have her, then nobody can, and I'm gonna kill her. So I'm pretty sure that happened back in the day,
Oh yeah, there's actually a story of back when this first started. I don't know the names, but I can tell you what happened. There was a homeowner, and he would see his live-in maid in the middle of the night just get out the door with a lantern, sneak out, and then come back in the wee morning of the wee hours of the morning, and he'd see her do this again, do that again. Well, one time enough was enough. So as soon as she came back, they grabbed her, they put her on the table, and they kind of like held her against her will and say, "Where were you?" I was tending the garden," she says. No, she wasn't. They kept asking, "What were you doing? What were you doing?" But what she actually was doing is she was actually leaving and doing a little bit of like a midnight rendezvous with a boyfriend across town somewhere.
Wow.
But she wouldn't say anything because back then people were very religious.
Yeah.
If they said something like they were fornicating, whatever you want to call it, whatever they called it back then, that you would be frowned upon. So she just kept it to herself. And what they started doing was they started using this little device called, I believe it's called the Pillywinks, which is thumb screws. So you put your hand into this brace, or they put their hand into this brace, and they would start screwing it down, and they would say, "Confess, confess. Tell me what you're doing out there. Are you a witch? Are you a witch?" And that's where it started taking off. They started torturing people. They had another thing called wrenching, where one guy would hold a rope. In the middle, they would tie this rope around the woman's head, and the other guy would hold the rope on the other side, and they were saying, "Confess." And if the woman wouldn't confess, they would keep pulling the rope tighter and tighter until eventually she would confess, or the skull will implode, or just collapse within itself.
Yeah.
But yes, the reason why he attacked her is because he actually liked her, even though he couldn't have her. He wanted some sort of sexual affair with her, but he was already mad or jealous because she was out there doing something.
Yeah.
Eventually, he looked at her body by stripping her down, minutely examining every part of her body. That's what they did back then. They would shave you down, look at every part. They didn't care where it was. And I believe he found like a hickey mark or some sort of bruise on her neck. And that gave her the...
that was his
that
proof.
gave him the go-ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I did see that in a couple of the documentaries I watched where they would actually do this to the women. Because most of the time it was women, right, that they accused for witchcraft. Most of the time.
Yes.
And, I did see that they would torture them and do all these, like, horrible things to them. And, of course, if you're under that pressure or, they're hurting you and you want the pain to stop, well, you're just going to say whatever the person wants you to say. So, I mean, it sucked. It sucked back then.
Oh, yeah.
But
what's worse than the torture, I think, is when your own family turns against you.
Yeah.
There was a story about this one lady. She was walking through a path, and an elderly gentleman was walking by, and she tried to say hi or say good morning, but he ignored her and kept walking. So after he was a few feet away, maybe about 20 feet away, she cursed him under her lip. And next thing you know, the man kind of fell down, and he started going down, and some believe it was probably a stroke because the left side of his body, whatever the part of the stroke happens on, was taking effect, and he was dying. So she felt guilty, and she was questioned by the authorities, and she said that, I did curse him, and all of a sudden a black dog appeared. This black dog said, "You cursed him?" It's like, "Well, what would you like me to have do upon him? What would you like me to have do upon him?" And she said, "Maim him." Maim him, okay. So the dog runs, and you see it in the recreation. The dog runs, and next thing you know, he falls over. So she tells the story again in trial, and then before trial, though, actually she calls out her grandmother, her mother, and a few other people. So this is part of the problem too when it came to these trials, is that when people were caught doing something, they didn't want to do it alone. They felt like ashamed that they had to put other people involved in this too.
Yeah.
So she blamed her mom. She blamed her grandmother. The mom was on trial also, and she totally said, "No, I this is all lies. This is not happening." And so it was a stalemate in the trial, and they couldn't figure out how to get a verdict out of this. So they brought in her 9-year-old child, the mothers of this girl that had the old man supposedly killed.
Okay.
So this 9-year-old child came in, and I don't know why. It was just like something that they did back then. It's just they overblow it, and they just say, "Hey, I'm going to create a story right here for either the moments or maybe the mom was abusive towards that 9-year-old child." So the 9-year-old child was like, "Yes, my mom was a witch. She did all these enchantments, and she had a dog, but she said a brown dog instead of black dog. She had this brown dog, this and that, and yes." And because of that, she was able to be trialed and executed. She was accused and she was guilty and executed.
Yeah.
All of them.
And I mean, who knows? Maybe even the child was they threatened the kid or something before. They're gonna say, we're gonna hurt you or something if you don't say this about your mom. But yeah, I mean,
I believe that.
I think there was I don't know if I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I don't know if I saw this in a movie a while back or if this is actually legitimate information. That's why we said we're not professional investigators and nothing. We're just, you're just having fun. But there was a thing I think I saw on a documentary about witchcraft, or maybe they did use it in the film too. But they used to do a thing. I don't know if you saw this, Carlos, where they would throw someone into like a river. And they would say, like, with their hands tied behind their back or something, and they'd be like, "Okay, if you survive, that means you're a witch," But if you don't, that means you're not a witch. So either way, you're gonna die. Either you're gonna drown or we're gonna kill you.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was something they used to do too.
Yeah, there was another story about that too. It was this clergyman, and all the other clergy, they didn't like him because he was rude. He was just a nasty clergyman. So they actually put out a bulletin board, or they told somebody, "Hey, this guy inside the clergy, he's a witch, but we want you to get rid of him."
Oh, okay.
And there was this famous witch hunter called Matthew Hopkins. They call him the witch finder general. And he was always out there trying to get people, and he never failed when he tried to get somebody. He was always getting the information that he needed. So anyways, he ran after this guy, and he did all the torturing that he could to him. He did the sleep deprivation, which is you don't let him sleep for 3 days. The previous time with this other person that he was trying to get information from, he would have somebody slap them and keep them awake. But this time, what he did with his clergyman is he had him be sleep deprived. Then he had him walk when he knew that he felt like he was sleepy. So the guys had him on each side and they made him walk a long distance and then walk back.
Yeah.
That didn't work. And a few of the torturing methods didn't work either. Probably the pilly-winks didn't work. So what they did, like you said, they tied his feet and they tied his arms, and they threw him in the moat of the castle. And he was just suffering, kind of like an old style version of waterboarding, I guess. He was there floating, coming up, going down, and they finally pulled him out, and he said something which was enough to have him hung, but to keep him in prison. But he never admitted that he was a witch, and that's because of his pure faith to his religion, the strong faith actually.
Yeah. You know what?
Eventually they had him do a mass trial. So not only they didn't just try him, they tried a bunch of people, and that's how they got him to be executed, by putting him and grouping him together, having a mass hanging, and that's how they got rid of him.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you found any information on what exactly. I mean, how do you label someone a witch? I mean, what do you have to do to be a witch? I know it has to do with some of it with doing like some kind of like magic, right? Like putting curses or stuff like that. But I mean, would a psychic be considered a witch, or there's so many people that practice, what is it called, the Wicca, or then there's like the White Witch, and there's like it's like a whole variety of stuff of things. So I'm trying to think, okay, what's a real witch, like a witch, and is there any more witches left? Because I haven't met any.
Well, it all depends on what century you're asking that question and what a witch is, right? I mean, you can get the old and say, well, you can just look at the fun Hollywood type. Oh, a witch has a big hat, green face and a big nose and rides around on a broomstick.
Yeah.
Well, back then they didn't do that. They were just called witches because they were old. They didn't like them. They were rude. They cursed, so they had some sort of mental problem, or they had money and people needed that money. Yeah. Just kill that person because she has a lot of land. Let's take that away from that person.
Yeah.
Or it was just a neighbor's quarrel. It could have been too. But nowadays, the religion of Wicca, right? That's what you just mentioned right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because when I did the interview with Nicole Six, I mean, she considered herself a witch, and I mean, she was more like kind of like read the tarot cards and stuff like that. So I'm kind of confused. Like, I mean, what's a witch? What's a psychic? Is a psychic a witch? Is a fortune tellers?
Right. I think a psychic is just like a. Well, I don't want to. I'm not sure about this, but that's my guesstimate is that a psychic is just someone that can read, right, the future, or maybe some sort of telepathy, right, or some sort of thing there.
I mean, it's kind of a. There's a big a variety of things. I don't know. So like I said, I'm not a professional in this. To me, a witch is like I said, what I guess, like you said, Carlos, like what we watch in movies. Someone that is bad. I guess that someone that has bad intentions. That to me is a witch. Someone that could hurt people with with enchantments and stuff like that. But I mean, like you said, like we said, there are those people that call themselves like white witches, right? And those are supposed to be good witches.
Right. And they've been around for a long time, even before all these witch trials. The pagan religion or paganism, those were considered to be witches back then. Those are the ones that lived off the land and they worshipped the land. They had all the herbs and all the medicines because they were kind of like what Native Americans have, which is like they left the land, the animals, and the medicinal plants that would use that to cure things.
So almost like I guess like almost like today, like vegetarians, right? Live off the land, planting your little tomatoes and stuff.
It's a little different, just a tiny bit different. But
Yeah.
so back then there were pagans, and I want to start talking about modern day Wicca.
Yeah.
A little bit from my limited knowledge of the week that I've learned here, and so they were the pagans from back then, and there was this man, I think he's a doctor now, or he was a doctor, Gerald Gardner, and he developed Wicca in the 1940s. He pretty much created a new religion. He was fascinated by tribal ritual magic, and Gerald Gardner was an active nudist, and he really liked being out there and naked, and of course in his own property or his own little thing, right? Besides that, the man spent about probably 20 or so plus years studying witchcraft, and he studied these people called the cunning folk, which were witches that would cast spells and heal the sick and bring good luck to people. He was inspired by them, but his ambition wanted to make him go even further to create this religion and to start it up and to have something that's more on the light side, something that's what you're kind of talking about, white witches. This is what Gerald Gardner's religion would be. It's the opposite of Aleister Crowley's. I think it's the Lemma religion, which is more on the darker side, the sorcery and all that other stuff like that. It's kind of
because that's another thing that comes to mind when I think of a witch. Especially you would think, okay, a witch is able to because I saw one of the things I saw online was of that supposedly witches, the evil ones, the bad ones, they have some kind of a communication with the demons and stuff, right? With like or some kind of pact. They make pacts with like with the dark side, but who knows?
So Gerald Gardner, he had a couple of artifacts that he would use, and some of these artifacts are still used today in rituals or in certain little get-togethers in the forest with these Wiccans. And here's a picture of Gardner.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm confused. I'm confused. Why is he wearing clothes?
He's just wearing the top part. He's not wearing the rest of it. Somewhat decent, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. And let's see if I can get past here. Hold on, let me go back here. There we go. So some of the things that he had in his collection and what people use, here is the knife that they would use. And this is called the, hold on, okay, Athame. This is the Athame knife. Usually it has a black handle, and it's pretty much main use is to divert or cut energy.
Oh, okay.
And let's see what else we have here. Here's the wand. This wand is usually used to create circles, to create safe places. It's usually made out of wood.
I've seen that wand before.
Yeah?
On Harry Potter.
So the wand is usually made to create like protection circles or circles, and the reason why it's made out of wood is because it's like a tree and it's grounded to the earth.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like a connection from below to the middle to the sky and back.
Oh, I see. So it's funny because, I mean, would wizards be considered witches too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, wizards, sorcerers, warlocks.
So we have wizards. We have the warlocks. That's right. That's right. And you know what? There's a movie called Warlocks. Really good.
I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. I wanted to show that.
Yeah, I think it had 3 parts: Warlock 1, 2, and 3.
I only remember seeing the first one, but I remember the tongue scene. That's for sure.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wiccans have, I guess they have 2 gods. I don't know the names. I have them here somewhere. But this is the crown, the horn god's crown. It's usually male.
Okay.
And they have the female, and the triple moon. This is the female. It's triple moons. You can see a crescent moon on the left, a crescent moon on the right. In the middle would be a full moon. And usually this is the women of the religion.
Okay.
And the previous one was the horn god, which it's man, it's the earth. It's anything in nature, all the animals.
Okay.
But that's just my limited extent of the religion, the knowledge that I have. You know.
Okay. Did you watch that movie? That last one that came out where those young adults go to like some kind of there's like some kind of cult, a summer solstice or summer something. Did you watch that?
No, I didn't see that.
That one has to do also with witches, like the Wicca or something, where they live off the land.
Really?
They live off the land and they live in the middle of like almost like farmers kind of thing. But the thing is, it had a dark side because in that film, they had spoilers. They had a thing where I guess where you get to a certain age, and so you're no good to the group anymore. You can't I guess be a part of like the gardening and the work they had to do. So once you reach a certain age, you agree to sacrifice yourself, like jump off a cliff and kill yourself and stuff.
Oh my god!
You gotta watch that movie. It's weird, but they had all these weird. They had all these weird costumes and kind of like what you showed me right now with those horns and all this weird stuff. So you know what I'm talking about, right?
The Wicker Man.
No.
Not this.
No, I know. It burns. Yeah, talking about Nicolas Cage. He's right behind me. Season of the Witch movie. I think. Yeah.
So Gerald Gardner's Wicca took off later on in the 60s. It expanded because of modern views in the 60s. The 1960s had all the hippies coming out, the women's liberation movement was coming out, and it was all part about gender equality, environmentalism, and so forth. And that's what the religion is pretty much known for. It's for its environmentalism, it's for its gender equality, and just all around love. Now today, what would you ask modern Wiccans what they believe their religion is about? And a lot of them would say it's all about the craft, the spirituality, the religion, and some will also say the power of magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are the powers that these Wicca or whatever? What are the powers they have? What do they do? What can they do?
There's this cool site called Google.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm sure they have like love spells and so forth, but I'm sure they go way beyond what I just mentioned right now.
Yeah.
I'm not the person to ask. Go online, do some research. Go to the library.
Yeah, because I think what I saw a little bit about that is that they do. I guess to them it's more about purifying the soul, the energy and positive energy and stuff like that, right? That's basically what it is.
Yeah, they get into circles, and they redirect energy.
Yeah.
And in one of the videos that I remember seeing, it was that they had some acorns, and they wanted to use these acorns for some sort of like a spell or a part of the ritual. I'm not sure if it's a spell, but it's part of the ritual. And they wanted to charge it, so they all went around and they danced it and around it, and they kind of used the earth's energy to guide it through themselves, and from them they would charge these acorns.
Oh, okay.
And they would just and like I mentioned earlier, they would use the knife, the athame, to move energy around, to redirect it, and they would use also that knife to cut bad energy. For example, they would have a piece of paper, and they would write all their negative things on it, like what's bad about you, or what's bad about this, and how are you going to fix it. So they would just write down all that bad stuff, that negative energy. They would probably fold it up. They would grab the knife and they would just cut it.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, Wicca seems more like counseling, some kind of therapy or something. I mean, hey, whatever works.
Then maybe we should go one day and check it out and do like an on-site thing.
I know. Go see what's up. Write some stuff on paper and cut it and do all that stuff, all the good stuff. But yeah. So you know what? Why don't we get to the good part of this episode, which is the movies. Something that I'm actually good at. So, anyways, I think one of the I don't mean to like cut you off here, Carlos, but one of the
No
first
worries.
one of the first films that I ever watched as as a kid, where I kind of an introduction to witches was Snow White. Right?
Oh yeah,
You've seen that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
seeing that in theaters. I know it's way older than when I saw it, but it was when they do like the whole re-release in theaters and stuff. But I remember seeing that, and it freaked me out because that put a whole thing on my mind of like witches are like they're bad. They either want to kill you or or they're just just evil. But what's one? Did you ever watch any movies with witches when you were a kid? I'm pretty sure you did.
Yes, there was that movie. There was the movie called, I think it's The Witches, right? Where there's a group of witches gather in a lobby. They're part of their convention. And there's this kid that is in that same place. He's with his nana or whatever it is. And I guess eventually they turn him into a rat or
Little
I don't
mouse.
know what it is. But
Yeah.
Little Mouse. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
I think it's called The Witches.
Yeah, that
So
one's
never
kind of
seen
that
that.
one's kind of freaky because there's a scene where they're having like a convention or something. Remember that?
That's the convention. Yes.
And like they look like normal people, but then they start taking off their clothes, and then one of them takes off like the face. It's like a skin face, and it's like this crazy looking witch. Yeah, that was a good one. The witches.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was that one. Of course, we talked about Warlock. That's one that I've seen as a kid. There's also, you mentioned, what movie did you just mention? The Snow White. And I was kind of scared about that scene when I was a kid. But the one that kind of threw me off was what's it called again? The Wizard of Oz. And the Wizard of Oz talks about the witches. There's 2 good witches and there's 2 bad witches.
Oh, there is.
And then of course, you have the good witch the good witch. Remember?
But I don't remember there being 2 good witches and 2 bad witches. There was 2?
Well, in the book, or I don't know, isn't there supposed to be like north, east, south, and west, or is it just north and?
I haven't watched The Wizard of Oz in a long time. I just remember the crazy witch. I just remember the crazy witch on the broom, flying in the broom, and the good witch.
And then,
you know what? Talking about that, where does the whole thing of a witch flying on a broom come from? Is that because of the whole old lady thing? They would sweep a lot, or what?
Yeah, you know what? It could be. That's what I was just thinking right now too.
Yeah, it's like, what is that? Do the witches like to clean their house? And you know what? That's maybe something I should have looked into. Like, why do they show them always flying in brooms or they're always cooking? Are all these witches housewives?
They have black cats. Yeah, that's one of the things too.
That's right. The black cats, the cauldron, the cauldron, right? The cauldron.
Yeah, right. Bubble, toil and trouble.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. So that's how I was exposed to those witches there.
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite movies about witches is this one right here. You see it? You see it, Carlos?
Yes.
Hocus Pocus. And that one, you know what? I've watched the film a few times, and I mean, does that have anything to do with like reality? Is that like based on any kind of like facts? Because even in the film they talk about how they live in this town where they believed in these witches and stuff. I mean, is it based on some kind of true story or? And you know what? They are making a part 2 to this. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, nice. That's cool. I wish you would have asked me that question earlier, like before the show. But I doubt it. I think
because I mean, it's supposed to be in Salem, right?
That's what I was going to ask you. It's part of Salem, right? The whole backstory.
Yeah, and they have the black cat and the whole thing. So who knows? Maybe. But yeah, great movie, Hocus Pocus. And can't wait for the sequel.
Good cast.
Yeah, and you know what? In the sequel, they're supposed to be the cast is supposed to come back, or at least the 3 witches. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's Bette Midler, right?
Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker. And I forgot the other one.
She's from the Nuns, right? The Nuns movie. I forget what she was.
I don't know.
So I don't remember. Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? The Warlock the Warlock films were great. I think if I were to mention, if I were to pick from like a variety of witch films, I think Warlock is one of my favorites. I mean, for like a more serious toned film.
Now I haven't seen it in a great while. I'm talking about like, I don't know, a decade or more. What does I know the Warlock is after a child, right?
He what?
Is he? Is the Warlock after a child? He's after a kid?
Yeah, I think in most of these witch films it always involves some kind of kid, almost like a Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, the only thing I vaguely remember is that he's after this kid, and the kid hasn't been baptized or so, because I think they ask him, has the kid been baptized? He's been missing or something like that.
Yeah.
And I know that there's this really gross tongue scene where it's pretty bad.
Was it as bad as the Nightmare on Elm Street scene with the phone?
No, Nightmare will always be the worst.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, but you know what? Why don't we talk about the film you watched? That, you know what, I haven't watched this movie in, I want to say, like 15, 16 years. Okay, yes. The movie I watched was The Craft. Yeah.
And I have a little summary here from a good friend at Google, the search. After transferring to a Los Angeles high school, Sarah finds that her telekinetic gift appeals to a group of 3 wannabe witches who happen to be seeking the 4th member of their rituals. Bonnie, Rochelle, and Nancy, like Sarah herself, all have troubled backgrounds, which combine with their nascent powers lead to dangerous consequences. When a minor spell causes a fellow student to lose hair, the girls grow power mad. So, yeah.
I mean, this film was all like, they were in high school, right? Or something? It's like a bunch of high school girls.
So the girl moves in from San Francisco, and she's lives with her dad. The mom passed away. And she goes to school, and she kind of likes this guy, and it seems like the guy kind of likes her. But while this little romance is going around, the other girls that are interested in her, one of them sees her doing some sort of witchcraft where she has a pencil and she's making it stand still on the desk like this. And I think it's Nev Campbell's character.
Oh, yeah.
She's just looking at, she could be the 4th one. Because she could be the 4th one, what she's trying to say. She's trying to get these 3 girls to get a 4th one so they can be part of that whole
pentagram?
northeast, north, south, east, and west, like the witches again of Wizard of Oz. Yeah. And, you get a circle, and every time it's a circle, there's always a pentagram in there. Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
So they first have these little funny prank moments where they do these little spells. I believe Sarah does a spell where she makes this one guy that treated her badly. So she makes a love potion or a spell. So he's totally like annoying her throughout the movie because he's just like totally in love with her. Another girl, she gets picked on, so she has this one bully girl lose her hair.
Oh, that's right.
One of the ones, right. And the Nev Campbell's character, she has a lot of scars. Like she was burned when she was a young girl, a younger girl.
Yeah, so there was like a fire or something, right?
It was a fire. Okay, that's where it was, right? And she went to go to a dermatologist and a surgeon to go get that done, removed by lasers, but it wasn't working. So she did the spell, and eventually she was like the nicest girl out of all the group. And as soon as the scars went away, she became like really bad and treated Sarah so poorly.
Yeah.
And what's the next? Let's go. Yeah, Nancy, played by Faruka Balk. She just wanted absolute power. So the majority of the movie is this girl Sarah turns against her friends, and because she knows her friends are becoming just engorged with power and just just want to take over, especially Nancy's dominating power. She wants to take over the world.
Yeah, the battles of good and evil.
The battle of good and evil, and it finds out that Sarah, like her mom's a witch too. So that's what kind of helps her with this journey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I haven't seen that movie in a long time. You know what? Now that we're talking about it, does that girl's mom appear like as a ghost at the end or something, like to come like comfort her or something? I'm kind of seeing that image in my mind. I'm probably confusing the movie with something else.
She does make an appearance, but instead of being like in a form, she's in the picture frame.
Oh, okay.
And she the picture animates and it shows her face and talks to her. And that's what gives her the extra power to defeat Nancy.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. But I think that's about all I have. Like I said, I don't know, this topic is interesting and everything, but I don't know. I guess it's all right. It's all right.
I think it's great because there's so much in the history of this. I mean, there's so much we can go from this.
Well, I mean, see, the thing is, I think you like this more, Carlos, because you're more like of a bookworm, and you're into the whole like looking for information and stuff. I'm more like I like the fun part of stuff, fun part of things.
I'm into the occult. Just call me Alistair.
Oh man, was there any other films you watched, or that was it? Just
No, but I do want to mention something about going back to this Wiccan Gerald Gardner and some of the spells. Actually, I just like to mention this really quickly.
The nudist.
Back in the day, the nudist. We're going back to the nudist guy, and I guess Hitler was winning the war, and he was conquering Europe at the time, and the United Kingdom was Great Britain was scared because the Hitler wanted to go. That's why he had the rockets and so forth. So going back to Gerald Gardner and the Wiccans, they actually have a spell that they used, and let's see, it's called the Cone of Power. It was a ritual, and to keep Hitler's forces from invading Great Britain, they had this thing called the Cone of Power. And they would get together in a circle and just go up and do this ritual thing. And I thought that was pretty crazy because they used that several times, but it did defeat the threat of Hitler according to them. Mm. But it's one of those things where, well, this happened, that happened. It's probably just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Coincidence. So, but I did like to mention that, the Cone of Power.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have, as human beings, we have that curiosity where we want to feel like there's some kind of supernatural force, like either like helping us, either when something happens we're like, oh, it was because of this, or like I felt lucky today. I bought a lottery ticket and you win $50 and you're like, oh, it was because I felt it. I felt like some kind of psychic or mental thing, but coincidence. But yeah, I mean. What do you think, Carlos? Witchcraft, fact or fiction?
Well, the lotto ticket thing, man. Why can't it happen to me?
But yeah, Carlos, what do you think, Carlos? I mean, do you believe in this stuff? Do you think it's real? Am I putting you on the spot?
You always put me on the spot. What are you talking about? I should be used to this by now.
I know.
No, I'm not. I don't believe in it, but I think that belief system, that having that faith, whether it's witchcraft, whether it's Catholicism, you're born again, evangelical, whatever your religion is as long as you believe in yourself inside, there's some sort of greater power, some sort of positive energy. That's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's Jesus Christ or anything, Buddha.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, I'm kind of like I think I'm leaning more towards like, I don't believe in it. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that it's like me with collecting films. A lot of people think I'm nuts for my movie collection of. Why do you keep on collecting more? You already have enough, and it's just my thing. So I understand. Everybody has their thing, and that's cool.
Right.
Do your thing, people. As long as you're not hurting. As long as you're not hurting anybody, it's fine.
That's all that matters. We get along. We're not hurting anybody. We're all positive.
Yeah. But anyways, I think we're done with today's episode. Is there anything you want to mention? Any honorable mentions, shout outs?
There's a lot more notes, but I think we're done.
No, I mean, did you have anything else you want to say about witchcraft?
Oh, no. I just want to make sure that if people are really interested in the topic, they should talk more about they should research more about the European. Mm-hmm. Salem is good, and we didn't talk about Salem, the witch hunts, that much either. But,
I know.
But the European ones are cool, especially when you look at, if someone really wants to be into this topic, look up King James, the books, But also look up Matthew Hopkins. That guy was a piece of work, man. He was greedy. He was after people's lives. It's a documentary within itself. So look that up.
He was a businessman.
Yes. And by cheating everybody out and killing all those people, he eventually developed tuberculosis within 2 years of him being the witch finder, and he passed away.
Of course.
Yeah.
Payback is, you know what? But
Witch.
anyways, yeah. Payback is a witch. No pun intended. But anyways, guys, well, I think we're done for today. Quick shout out again to Halloween Screams here in San Pedro for the witch.
Yes.
The witch has been haunting Carlos all day. This whole episode. All right, guys. Yeah. But anyways, guys, you know what? I think we're gonna continue doing these episodes where we're gonna be talking about, different kind of I want to do a whole thing where we're doing monsters every week until Halloween.
Oh man.
So
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah. So we'll see what next week. If you wanna know what's gonna be coming up on the future episodes, follow us on the San Pedro Paranormal Facebook page. And
Yes.
we'll put little updates there and stuff. But and you know what, I also want to do a quick shout out to one of our viewers, Diamond Bar. She actually, she's a viewer, and that's a crazy name, right? Diamond Bar.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, so she saw me. She was in the street, and she's like, "Hey, you know what? I've been watching the episodes. They're really good and stuff." So quick shout out to Diamond Bar. Yeah.
That's good.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on San Pedro Paranormal. Hopefully, you guys like the episode. If there's anything you guys want us to, like a topic you want us to talk about, go ahead and leave a comment at the bottom, and follow us on our Facebook page. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all the good stuff. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Ring the bell.
Yeah.
Thank you.